All right, so I want to lay out some helpful tips on replacing the crankshaft position sensor. Now, I want to put this together because I actually had to do this twice, and I'll explain why. And I did a lot of research looking at different videos, and a lot of guys had some really good, thorough stuff, but they each kind of had little helpful tips along the way that I just wanted to put into one video now that I've done it twice. First time I did this repair probably took me 4 hours. I took a lot of breaks. It's pretty hot out here. But second time I did it, I was able to do it in under 2 hours, and you could probably even do it faster than that. But I want to show you how you could do that because this isn't going to be one of your fondest memories doing this repair. It's pretty fun. So basically, these are the items that you're going to need. So I want to lay that out first. So I have your replacement crankshaft position sensor. It's going to look like this. Now, you're going to see a lot of arguments with the best way to do this. So what I found is this is all you need. Eventually, it just needs to be 10. You're going to need one of these swivels here. You absolutely need one of these. Some guys tell you all kinds of crazy things. I guarantee this is the best way to do it. So what I did is I put a little duct tape around that. That's tip number one. So that way you still have a little play in it, but it doesn't move around as much. Some of them are really floppy. This one's pretty solid still. But duct tape around that is going to be your friend here. And again, that's the length that you're going to need for this project. So some of these other items are going to be more related to the interior removal. And I'll go over just real quick how to do that without actually taking it apart, but I'll just show you what you need to know. And again, you can look at these other guys' videos and you can see exactly a step-by-step process, but I want to really just show you their tips, and you can do with what you will with the rest of your time. So items that you'll need, again, you're going to need this length extensions. You're going to need 11. That's important. So 11 for the bolt, so you don't have to play around with it too much. That's going to be the bolt that actually goes in to the crankshaft position sensor. And because you're not going to be able to touch it, feel it, you might not even be able to see it very well, 11 is going to be the important information. Now, you're also going to need small screwdriver, bigger screwdriver, Phillips, and that's just going to be for interior specific. These two items are also interior specific, so 10 millimeter is going to be pretty much every bolt but the one that's going to be for the crankshaft position sensor. This is all interior. You're going to want one of these, honestly, just for the amount of space that you're going to have getting to the access port. If you have a ratcheting one, even better. Obviously, you're going to need the ratchet and then paracord. I'll show you where this is most important, probably in a little bit. And then 13 millimeter, and that's just to remove the battery for the negative side. Yours might be different, but that's my messed up connection, which I'm sure a lot of you have, so you'll need that for that part. Alright, so step one with any electrical project is to remove the negative side, so you'd use that 13 on that, come around. Now, if you guys haven't taken apart your dashboard before, first, count yourself lucky. Second, I'll just go ahead and speed run it. So the short Phillips is going to be right here. I'm going to use that for that one. And then you're going to use your long Phillips for this one, right under here. This is kind of like clamshelled in. So once this one drops, you can pop off this. This is just kind of friction held. You just pull that up, and then it'll expose two other screws right here. You're gonna use your long screwdriver for that. This plastic piece pops right off, and then that's going to give you access to right there. That's going to be 10 millimeter there, another 10 millimeter over here. There it is, right? And that's going to pull off the rest of your dashboard. Why that's important is because we're going for this access panel over here that's going to be behind the carpet, and you need all this off to start taking off this. Now, the reason the first one took me a good amount of time in addition to the heat was there's a screw that goes up back here and it goes straight up, but it's at a really interesting position back here. And so even with that shorty screwdriver that I showed you, it's still, the moment it screws out, you start to get to the point where you can't even make contact in it. And you can finger loosen it, but it's a pain because it's through plastic, so it's not threaded very well. I ended up losing mine, which you might do the same, maybe on purpose. But this thing, it friction holds as well, so it'll probably be pretty solid. But you're gonna spend a lot of time with that. If you can get some sort of angled screwdriver, like a ratcheting one, that's probably gonna be your friend as well. Next part is gonna be the access port, which is gonna be this one. You don't want that one, you want this one. And that's going to be 10 millimeter. I did the regular kind of ratchet on this one, and then this is where the actual wrench, the ratcheting wrench that I used, came in handy again, 10 millimeter. This will be kind of funky to pull up. It's got this like, waterproof sealer here that you just kind of have to slide this ring along the wire, and eventually that opens up and that gives you access. Then what you're going to be able to see is, if you look straight through that hole, you're going to see the actual bolts in your crankshaft position sensor. Now once you're inside that access port and you see the bolt for it, it's going to be kind of like that angle, if you want to imagine it that way. And you're almost going to be ratcheting, if it'll hold for me, kind of like that. So it'll just be down through there. You'll just kind of poke it through. It'll be rested very similar to that, and you'll just ratchet. And your ratchet, once it's actually in there, will probably be right around there. If you want to add some length to it, you absolutely can, but that was enough. Get the bolts out. Likely it'll drop to the ground. You can grab it, and I'll show you the next part. So I have fairly skinny arms. I like to say it's for repairs like this. If you don't have skinny arms, this is going to be pretty difficult. You might need to phone a friend, but basically you have to reach way back in there and you'll feel it. You'll feel the cable. And what I did on the first one is I actually had a friend look through the opening in the dash that you made, or on the floor rather, and just kind of let me know when he saw my hands, and then I was able to pull it up. So what you're going to want to do is, let me grab it. So it's going to be in there and it's going to look a lot like that. So it's going to be at an angle, and when you finally get your hand on it and you go to try and pull up like this, your hand is going to start hitting into the firewall. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to kind of want to twist it like that, and then eventually just kind of keep flicking it until you can get it up. What I did is, once I pulled it up, I rested it on the dash like that, and then that's where the paracord comes in. So because there's a lot of just random stuff that's going to be pretty close to the firewall, what you're going to want to do, and what I did on the very first one, is I used some zip ties, but I found paracord was a little bit more civilized. And all I did was I attached paracord to the back of this one, or this side, on this, and then on the new one I just put it on the other side, and it's kind of tip number 3 or 4. So that way, once you unplug it and it's going to be back here again, you'll eventually feel it. But once you unplug it, you're going to be able to just pull it, and then that'll help you pull it on through. Now with the first one, when I had put it in, again I had a friend just kind of look through the hole, and then when he saw that I had lined up the hole with the actual sensor, that's when I walked around and then I ended up screwing it back in. So, but what I will say is the second one I got, which is the correct part, and I'll go over that. When I did it on the second one, it was completely loose. And so once I got it in the hole and I put it down, it was just resting on the crankshaft, no issues. Whereas this one had like some friction, so when I was adjusting it, I was able to slide it. So just note that if you're gonna get the right part, then it's probably gonna be super loose. And again, you might need a friend to just kind of hold it. I was eventually able to get the bolt and just kind of lift up and then get it screwed in, which was kind of a pain. But again, if you have kind of a secondary friend that could help you with that, that would be best. And one of the last tips, so you're not going to be able to reach it, of course, just because it's going to be back in there. So what I did is I put the bolt in, got a little tape, put it in the socket, connected it to the bolt. That way you can just guide it in. Once it starts threading, you can break it off and then finish it up. So now with the part itself, now you're going to be able to find these fairly cheap, honestly, through a number of different stores, different stuff online. But you've heard me say it multiple times. I've done this twice, and the reason is the part eventually stopped functioning. Now this wasn't the cheap option. You can get these as cheap as 14 bucks I saw. This one was like $50 from your common local auto parts store. It was the nicer version even they had, and I thought, you know, I don't ever want to replace this, let me just do it right. But what I ended up needing is the Mopar part, and I've heard that multiple times. So I'm not gonna downplay this one specifically. A little hint: they're very good at making batteries for remotes. But you know, maybe it works for you, and you can look at the reviews, and you can see a lot of the people say that it does work. It didn't work for me, so you know, take that for what you will. I would say definitely on stuff like this that's going to be such a lengthy repair, you don't want to do it multiple times. I would just go for the Mopar part. I got mine Morris 4x4. It was like 140 bucks. So I would say go that route if you can do it. So showed you the parts that you'll need, some tips, paracord, the exact extensions you need, swivels, the right sizes that you need, preferably the part that you should get. So hopefully this helped. Like I said, this was a combination of a lot of other people's, you know, information that I found on different forums and stuff, and a lot of it was very helpful, but it was spread out, so I wanted to consolidate it. If you're watching this video not even sure if this is the repair you need, what happened with the first one is I'd be driving, typically it'd be on the freeway, but the RPM would just go to 0. So everything else would stay on, the radio would stay on, interior lights, everything, the engine would just shut off. And so I would be able to coast to a stop. Eventually it was, you know, 50, 60 feet, and then I'd be able to start it right up and it would drive like nothing even happened. That was when I first took it to do the actual repair. So the problem was I didn't even get like a crankshaft position code until much later on, because I was driving with it like that for a little while. I was checking on forums, and there wasn't a this is exactly what your symptom is, this is what it must be. It was usually something that was suggested, but I did a lot of work with the throttle body, and because a lot of people were relating the RPM issue to different sensors that were in the throttle body, so I replaced all that, and eventually I did replace it with this part, and it worked for a little while. I went through an entire drive cycle because I was actually going to get emissions, and I passed and everything was completely fine, and then it just started giving me issues. So it lasted about 2 weeks. Other people that bought this product said that it lasted closer to 2 months. So that's why I'm going with the Mopar part. But what was happening with this is it wasn't exactly the same. It was still temperature related. That's something you'll see is fairly common. Is you'll be able to start it, drive it locally, like there's absolutely nothing wrong. It'll drive completely fine. Especially after I had done a bunch of upgrades with the intake here, it was driving even better than when I bought it. So I was really excited about it, and then it would just randomly die. Except this time with this part, is I wouldn't be able to start it right away. I would have to let it sit for 10, 15, 20 minutes for it to get a little cooler, and then it would let me continue. So had to do the secondary replace, and now it's all good. But that's your quick tips and what you can expect and what you should look for to make the repair a little easier. Like I said, I was able to do it under 2 hours. A lot of people in the forums are saying, it's a 3+ hour job, just take it to a mechanic. But if you don't have that option, or you want to test this out, it's absolutely doable. Just takes a little effort and a little heart, I guess. So I'll keep making some of these videos and just show you some of the repairs that I'll do. and hopefully show you some of the cheat codes that I found, and that'll make your repairs a little cheaper.